Good morning, guys. It's Nick at Optima PS. I hope you're all well. Thanks once again for coming back to my channel. I really do appreciate it. Today, I want to jump into a video that discusses something that's been a bugbear of mine for quite a while now, and that's all those people out there moaning and whinging about the XRP escrow and the XRP that's released and the effect that has on the markets. They're dumping supplies on us, crashing the price, suppressing the price. It's been a bugbear of mine for quite a while, so I wanted to address it in a way that sort of brings us back to the real world and shares my thoughts. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but shares my thoughts, how I see it and why I think it's actually a really good thing and not a bad thing at all, and to see what you guys think. So if you do like what I say today, please do like and subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. I'm about 7,500 subscribers now, which is great. I really do appreciate the support. So if you like what I say, punch that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we can all stay in touch and speak soon. Before we start, you know me by now. My name is Nick. I am a financial advisor, but I'm absolutely not your financial advisor. I don't know you. You don't know me. I don't know the first thing about you. I couldn't possibly give anything but terrible financial advice, to be honest. And so anything I say or do in today's video should be taken as not financial advice and nothing more than me just sharing an opinion on the internet in the hope that it brings you some value. Where we are in the world today, we've actually had a good night last night. When I say a good night last night, I mean XRP's point of view rather than the greater crypto world. This is an XRP focused channel, but we do focus on crypto as well. I hold multiple coins, not just XRP. In general, the week has been better, hasn't it? We've got Bitcoin up 2% over the week. We've got Ethereum 3.84. We've got XRP 4.25. BNB 2.83. Solana 7.42. Both Solana and XRP had significant jumps last night. I think there was news, or at least rumour, around the potential approval of Solana and XRP ETFs from the SEC. Whether that's true or not, I don't know yet. I've not seen anything to sort of confirm that. But in the same respect, normally there's no smoke without fire. We know we're getting close. I do expect those ETFs to be released or signed off soon. And hopefully we'll all see a nice uplift on the back of that. But for now, the markets are moving in a relatively good direction this week. We have seen a slight pull off this morning, but that's on the back of what had been a very good night last night. I think XRP hit about $2.32 at some point last night. It's back down now. That's probably Asia taking profits. But I expect it will turn around quite quickly. We are looking prime for a new push up towards those all-time highs. Today is the 1st of July 2025, and it looks like we're about to see the alt season we've all been waiting for. No guarantees, not financial advice, but it certainly looks promising at this point in time. But let's get into today's video and what I wanted to talk about. So, realistically, we're diving into a comparison between two big giants of the tech world, if you like, Tesla and Ripple, and how their strategies of reinvesting money rather than paying investors off directly immediately have paid off big time for both the companies and the investors in both sides. You all know Tesla, and most of you will have found me from my page on X, my profile on X, whatever you want to call it, my Twitter page. You mostly will have come across me from there rather than through YouTube directly, and therefore you're all incredibly familiar with Elon Musk, and you know exactly what Tesla is. But let's take a look at how they started up. Tiny little startup really to $1 trillion powerhouse. You know, when it comes to electric cars, we think Tesla. In fact, some people will call an electric car a Tesla, whether it's a Tesla or not. Somebody said to me the other day, oh, I bought one of those Chinese Teslas. They meant BYD. But that's how big a brand name Tesla is in the electric vehicle world now, or in the automobile world, I guess. But a lot of people might not be familiar with the way Tesla's model has worked. Quite a lot of you guys are financially savvy, so I'm not teaching you how to suck eggs. Some of you will know, but not everyone will know that Tesla's never paid any dividends. I'm an investment manager. I look after people's finances. I've often recommended Tesla as an investment, and you'd be surprised how many people have turned around and said, "Oh, no way, I'm not investing in Tesla. They don't pay dividends." It's a huge bugbear for investors because when we invest money, we like to see a return on our money. And when you invest in traditional stocks, you normally invest for the potential capital gain because you think it's a good investment for the future, but also most companies will pay a dividend on those stocks for the use of your money. You invest your money, and as a reward, you get paid dividends, shares in the profits of the company. Tesla have never done that since they founded in 2003. They've never paid a single dividend. Elon Musk's vision, the company has poured every dollar of profit back into growth, research, development, and infrastructure. And the reinvestment strategy has basically gone a long, long way towards what Tesla is today. We all know Tesla. We're all familiar with Tesla. But, you know, if we take a look at, they've invested into things like gigafactories. If you're not familiar with a gigafactory, there's an image. This is the one in Texas, but they've got several around the world now. Shanghai, Berlin. I think there might be one in South America as well, but I'm not sure. Huge factories, and what they've essentially done is slashed production costs and scaled output, which turns Tesla into a global leader with about 55% market share as of 2023. I couldn't find any more up-to-date figures. I'd imagine it's probably bigger than that now. But there are now competitors like BYD coming out to take a piece of that share. But the size is, the market share is not really relevant here. What we're talking about is easily the biggest player in its sector. And it's on the back of things like reinvesting that money that would have otherwise gone to dividends. You know, if you kept your investors happy by paying dividends, you're not putting that money back into the company. And by putting that money back into the company, you create a more successful company, which provides greater capital growth. We all know that the innovations that Tesla's gone into, things like Cybertruck. I personally, sorry Elon, I think it's the ugliest car I've ever seen in my life. I know people love it. For me, I just don't get it. Performance-wise, I've got no complaints whatsoever. I've seen videos. It's driven faster than Ferraris. It's gone further than gasoline cars can on a full tank. It's one of the strongest, 4x4 or, sort of big cars out there. Everything you want to say about this car, it's fantastic. I just think it's ugly. I would have designed it differently. But some people love the design as well. But if you take a look at what the Cybertruck is, how it sort of put Tesla further on that map, if you take a look at things like the autonomous driving tech, we've all seen that video this last week or two. A Tesla car, for the first time ever, drove itself from the Tesla warehouse to the buyer's house. Automated. Nobody drove it. It didn't have to go on the back of a transport truck. It literally drove itself to its buyer's house. Just 5 years ago, that was uncomprehendable that could happen. Now, we've seen the automated taxis. We know that Teslas are capable of driving themselves around now. But just think of that. That's where this dividend money has gone. Look at competitors like Ford, GM, who do pay dividends out to their investors. They're so far behind. They're so far behind in the electric vehicle world and even in the vehicle world now. As a result, Tesla's stock price has skyrocketed from pennies at inception to almost $500 million per share by about the end of 2024. It has dipped a little bit now. It's about $377, I think, when I last looked. But even after multiple stock splits, you take a look at that. That's capital growth that dwarfs what any dividend could have offered them investors. Long-term investors have held, since 2010, let's use as the example, $1,000 in 2010 would be worth over $300,000 in Tesla shares today. Almost $500,000 at the peak at the end of 2024. Realistically speaking, if you 500x your money over 15 years, trust me when I say you are not going to complain about not having been paid those dividends. It shows a foresight on behalf of the investors, much like a foresight on behalf of Elon Musk and his vision, to say, do you know what, I don't need my instant profits today. I'm prepared to wait for this company to do what I think it will do, to take over the market like I think it will take over the market, and I will be rewarded far, far greater by that patience and that understanding. Brings me on to Ripple. All you guys are familiar with Ripple. This is an XRP focused channel. Nearly everyone here listening to me today is an XRP holder, but maybe some of you out there are just getting into it. So Ripple is the company that began XRP, the cryptocurrency. I mean, technically people would argue that's not true. XRP was in existence before Ripple, but Ripple is the company associated with XRP, with the distribution. They run the ledger. Basically, we have a situation where Ripple is currently being accused or thought of or misunderstood, in my opinion, of flooding the market using their escrowed XRP to provide profits to the company. That's the narrative from your Bitcoin maxis, from your XRP haters, from those people that got disgruntled having to wait for profits over the last 10 years. Realistically speaking, I view it as something very, very similar to what Elon did with Tesla. Unlike Tesla stock, this isn't about dividends. It's about a cryptocurrency called XRP that was released in an initial coin offering, which generated a whole bunch of money for Ripple. But since then, Ripple has held an awful lot of that XRP in an escrow account. Their narrative is it sort of manages the supply so we don't flood markets too much. Other people's narrative is they're using it to profit their company, and they're using us as exit liquidity and things like this. And I have a massive bugbear with that because I just don't think it makes any sense when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture. So for those of you that don't know, Ripple originally escrowed around 55% of the total supply of XRP, which is 100 billion XRP. There was only ever 100 billion XRP released. There will never be any more. That's hard-coded. There cannot be more than 100 billion XRP. It's deflationary. Every time people transact XRP, it burns a tiny, tiny portion. So the number of XRP is actually reducing as time goes by. The more it's used, the more expensive the transactions get. Then the more that will reduce down, or the more common transactions get, I should say, rather than expensive. The price will likely remain the same. But the more common and frequent transactions get, a little tiny piece is burned every time. So if you make 100 transactions with XRP in a day, you burn a tiny amount. If you make 1 billion transactions a day, you burn a lot more. Simple economies of scale. So originally, they held about 55 billion XRP in escrow. And traditionally, or in fact not traditionally, coded in there, they release 1 billion XRP per month. Historically, traditionally, they've always relocked about 700 to 800 million XRP per month. There's no rule that says how much they have to relock back into escrow. Just traditionally, it's been between about 7 and 800 million per month of that 1 billion that's unlocked. So the escrow currently sits at about 37 billion XRP, which at today's price, it's dropped a little bit since I first thought of this morning, but it's about $83 billion worth, US dollars worth of XRP that's currently not there in escrow. And as we know, Ripple's been strategically selling portions of it, releasing portions, and then selling some of that portion to the market. And that's where people have disgruntlement. Estimates suggest they've released about 4 or 5 billion XRP net. It's about 65 billion, I think, has been released altogether, even though it began at 55 billion because an awful lot of those that release get put back in. So the net amount of the release is about 4 to 5 billion. And obviously that's been done over several years. So it's very difficult to put an accurate number on exactly what the monetary value of those XRPs that have been released and sold on the open market comes to. I'm going to go really, really simple and use an average price of, say, 50 cents. I know prices have only recently, so November 24, we saw the roughly 50 cent price fly up to $3.30, then back down again, but we've been roughly above $2 ever since then. But head back to the years before that, we were very, very low. We were sort of between 50 cents and 25 cents. You go back to prior 2017, and prices were phenomenally lower than that. So I'm going to guess. I've no idea is the honest answer, but I'm guessing at 50 cents. And that would give us a number of roughly $2.25 billion, which will have been paid to Ripple for those XRP. So the argument that Ripple is using us, retail investors, or arguably institutions, exchanges, whatever you want to call it, as exit liquidity, there's there's a level of honesty to that, right? I don't agree with the narrative. I don't in any way or form, but there is a understanding as to why people jump to that conclusion, because those XRP have been released, not re-escrowed, and they've been sold off to somebody else, whoever that may be, for a price. That money has been used to boost XRP, Ripple, the XRP ledger, the global infrastructure of Ripple, and therefore I have no problem with that. But some people do. It causes angst amongst the community, many people feeling they are, inverted commas, flooding the market and suppressing prices. It is understandable because those release numbers of XRP will impact prices. Over time, it's got a reduced impact. At a time when there was only, let's say, 20 billion XRP in circulation, the release of another billion, locking up of 700 million, but the release of 300 million would have a bigger impact than right now when there's more like 55 billion circulating, something like that. So it does have a reduced impact as time goes by, and as the value of XRP goes up, it will have a reduced impact as well. But I do understand why people have that opinion. But let's look at the bigger picture. It's not just a cash grab. The money's been invested to build infrastructure and partnerships that I expect to blow up XRP's price as we move forward in the same way that Tesla did it with that money that would have otherwise paid dividends. Every investor in the world wanted dividends, but instead they've seen far, far greater growth on their capital because of the way those dividends, or the lack of dividends, was reinvested back into the company. Ripple's done basically the same thing with the profits of those XRP. A couple of examples, we've got Mataco, now known as Ripple Custody, because Mataco was a Swift-based company that specializes in providing institutional-grade digital asset infrastructure solutions for financial institutions. It was founded in 2015, but it was acquired by Ripple for $250 million in May 23. The company offers a range of products and services designed to help institutions securely integrate digital assets into their existing financial infrastructure. There's just a little bit of background on Mataco. You can do your own research. Where this comes in for Ripple, the name gives it away, Ripple Custody. It's a custody providing service that Ripple now owns, and that becomes part of the greater sort of portfolio of offerings they have to bring more people onto the ledger, to bring more people onto using XRP, to bring more people into using the greater infrastructure of the XRP ledger. Again, people could argue that was bought with money from yes, it was. Just like Tesla created the Cybertruck using dividends that could have otherwise been paid to investors, just like they built those gigafactories using dividends that could have been paid to investors. Instead, they reinvested it back in, and those investors are far, far better off as a result. Ripple's doing exactly the same thing. Hidden Road. To those of you not familiar with Hidden Road is a prime brokerage. If you don't know quite what that means, a prime brokerage is essentially a broker for brokers or institutions, if you like. They bought it for $1.25 billion this year. What does it do? Well, essentially, it enhances Ripple's liquidity and trading infrastructure. For me personally, the most important aspect is it demonstrates XRP and the XRPL's ability to handle vast quantities of financial transactions for the whole world to see, for everyone in the world to see. If you think that Ripple wants XRP to be, or the XRP ledger to be the go-to for high volume financial transactions, cross-border transactions, cross-currency transactions, Hidden Road transacts around $3 trillion per year. They've got about 300 institutional clients. Huge company in the financial world. By buying Hidden Road, that is the world's biggest advert for what XRP and the XRP ledger can do. It took a long time to be able to demonstrate what XRP and XRPL can do in the public eye. Behind the scenes, we're all aware those 1,700 non-disclosure agreements. We're all aware that lots of institutions, banks, central banks have trialed XRP, have maybe tested it with small amounts. But all of that is behind curtains, behind the view of the world. By taking on Hidden Road, what Ripple have done is they've basically provided a platform to demonstrate over the coming months and years exactly what XRP and the XRP ledger can do. There is no greater advert than proof in the pudding, right? If I'm a chef and I walk into your restaurant and say I want a job, the owner of the restaurant says, go make me a meal. Go and show me what you can do and I'll decide if you're worthy of the position at my restaurant. No one hires a chef without tasting their food, right? This is tasting the food. This is showing the financial world the proof in the pudding. That's what this is. They've also launched permissionless blockchains, decentralized exchanges. DEXs now connect the network to about 35 different blockchains. Robust cross-border payment systems. Realistically speaking, what Ripple have done with this money is create cross-border payments, create transactions, create a network that makes the entire world see what they can do. They've taken money that may have otherwise been paid to us in a form of dividends in capital growth a little bit earlier. They've reinvested it back into Ripple for the greater good in the long run, in my opinion. If you compare Tesla, Ripple, for Tesla, the lack of dividends has allowed the company to dominate the EV market, driving the market cap, incidentally, to about just shy of $1 trillion. Investors have seen capital gains that far outpace any dividend yield from traditional automakers or anything else they'd have invested in at the time. One of the most successful investments of the last 10 years, let's be honest. For Ripple, the escrow funds have done exactly the same thing. They fund a vision to capture $5 trillion of those Nostro Vostro accounts, 700 billion give or take in the remittance market. That's before we even touch on real world asset tokenization. If it's successful, now I think I should be saying when it's successful, but if it's successful, I have to say if, because there's no guarantees, XRP's utility will surge, reducing supply pressure, boosting the price. Analysts predict XRP could hit anything from low single digits in 2025 to 3 or 4 digits in the not too distant future. If you listen to Jay Claver, if you don't, give him a listen, by the way, one of the greatest guys in this space, he thinks it's entirely realistic. He needs 1 or 2 dominoes to fall, but he thinks it's entirely realistic that XRP could be valued at $1,000 by the end of 2025. Everything he says makes sense to me. I'd love to believe him. The only reason I don't believe him is I'm one of those people who I think things that good don't happen that quick to people like me. If you know what I mean. I fully believe XRP will hit $1,000 one day. I think it might be a while. I think for Jake's theory to come to play, quite a few dominoes have to fall that will be devastating to the financial world. And I think the powers that be will do an awful lot to try to prevent that. They'll keep kicking this debt can down the road a little bit further. They'll try their best to save US treasuries, things like this. So I think those things will come into play one day, but maybe not quite yet. But what we're looking at is a situation where XRP is highly anticipated to hit a minimum of $10 this year. We're July now. Officially, alt season normally starts about now. Historically, rather than officially, historically, alt season normally starts about now. Everyone is expecting it to start at some point soon in the coming weeks, if not already. Maybe last night's little pump, 4 or 5% overnight, is the beginning of that. We need XRP to break a couple of barriers to get itself back above that all-time high of $3.33, I think we'll call it. I know there's arguments about what the all-time high is over the exchanges, but realistically speaking, we're all of the opinion, every chart analyst, every crypto holder, that there's going to be a bigger leg to this bull run, and we're going to see it come to pass between now and the end of this year. Realistically speaking, we're expecting about let's say a minimum of $8, maximum, if you look at most analysts, about $25 to $30, who use purely the charts, and then you've got the guys who look at the fundamentals, the utility, that is all coming into play. We've got ETFs, we've got the Genius Act going through in the US. We've got the huge companies now developing XRP reserves. All of these things could come together to create a perfect storm and drive the price to where I think it ultimately will be, which is in 4 digits plus. I don't like putting a time frame on these things. I've looked at this in great detail. I couldn't even begin to fathom when that will happen because there are too many moving parts in the greater outside world, but they will move and they will come together, and you know the switch will be flipped, as people say, at some point in the not too distant future. And all of this is on the back of what Ripple have been doing over the years with that escrowed money. All of it. All of it. Take a look at this today. I've been following this page since it launched. I used to see these transactions trickling along at probably 100th the speed that these are currently flying past on your screen. And this is a slow point in time, by the way. When the market's really moving, you see these transactions. You can barely see that globe for the transactions whizzing around. There you go. A little bit of a spike just to prove my point. So I'm in a strange position where, realistically speaking, I know I can see with my own eyes what Ripple has done to prove these points, to get the world where it needs to be, to get their company, to get the XRP ledger, to get the network where it needs to be. And I am eternally grateful for how they've used that escrow to build profits into their company, to enable them to lay the foundations for what I think is going to be the greatest financial institution on planet Earth. I hope all that makes sense. If it does, please punch that like button. That's all I've got to say today, guys. I just wanted to get my thoughts out there because I'm sick and tired of seeing these people whinging and moaning. Oh, they're suppressing the price. They're killing my profits. Look at the bigger picture, guys. I do sympathise with people who needed instant profits. Unfortunately, I always say this as a financial advisor: if you need instant profits, you probably shouldn't be investing because no one can ever guarantee instant profits in any investment in the world. In the grand scheme, I don't feel there is a single XRP investor who invested and still holds that's going to be disappointed within a few months and that won't be extremely happy within a year or more. There may be a dip on this market again. I'm not saying we're going to go up forever. Crypto markets have traditionally moved in cycles. I think eventually those cycles will stop for utility coins, but I've seen no evidence to tell me that cessation will be this time. So I think you need to be very, very careful about how you exit if you need to exit. But in the same respect, there will be the opportunity to take huge, huge profits from XRP this year because of the work Ripple have done. And I, for one, am eternally grateful. Guys, if that made sense, as I say, please like, subscribe to the channel. Please share me on social media. I really appreciate it. In the meantime, I'm going to let you go. We're almost 30 minutes. So have a great day ahead. Have a great week ahead. And stay classy, crypto.